Welcome back to the Sheva Secrets, Nach or Nach series. In today's video, we are going to learn rule number 4, how to pronounce a Sheva at the end of a word. Let's dive in. In today's video, we are going to answer the question of how do you pronounce a Sheva that is at the end of the word? Do we read it as a Sheva Na and pronounce it, or a Sheva Nach and keep it silent? And to take this question further, what if there are two Shevas at the end of the word, meaning the last two letters? Does that change anything? What if there is a Dagesh in that last letter that has a Sheva? Does that change anything? Rule number 4, a Sheva at the end of the word is always silent, a Sheva Nach. It's always going to be silent, and that's true even if it's going to go against rules number 2 or 3. It's possible that you'll have, the last two letters will have a double Sheva. Rule number 2 tells us if you have a double Sheva, the first one is Nach and the second is Na. What I'm saying now is that if they are at the end of the word, they will both be a Sheva Nach. They will both be silent. Let's look at some examples. For example, this word on the screen is the word Melech, king. You'll notice that under that chaf sofit, there is a dagesh, those two dots. Therefore, this word is melech, because it's a shavanach. It's not pronounced as meleche, which would be a shavana, but it's melech. It closes off the syllable, it closes off the word. Here are some more examples. Example number 1 on the screen is the word shamart. This example has two Shevaim in a row. Two Shevaim in a row is, according to rule number 3, the first one would be Nach and the second one would be Na. If I just had that rule number 3, I would read this as Shamarte. But that's not correct, because rule number 4 is telling us that a Sheva at the end of the word, the last letter of the word, or the last two letters of the word, will always be Shvanach. Therefore, this is read as Shamart. You might notice that the tav also has a dot in it, and you might think, well, that dot is the dagesh. Rule number 2, it has to be a shavana, but that's not correct, because it's a shava at the end of the word. Rule number 4 overrides. A shava at the end of the word will always be a shavanach. Example number 2 is the same structure. Halacht. 4 letters, but only 2 syllables. Ha-lacht. Those final 2 shvaim are both going to be shvanach, halacht. Example number 3 is the word baruch. Baruch, every bracha we say starts with Baruch Atah Hashem. You'll notice that there is a sheva underneath that final letter, the chaf sofit, and it is silent. You can almost ignore it. You could pretend it's not there. To think about this another way, when you have a Hebrew word that under that final letter you don't see anything, you could almost imagine there is an invisible sheva under that letter. So this is, I'm not showing it on the screen, but you could think about your favorite Hebrew word. If that final letter doesn't have anything under it, you can view it as though there is a sheva under it and call that a sheva nach. So here are 2 examples that I'd like you to try. Please pause the video and try for yourself. Hopefully you got a chance to try. The first word on the screen, you'll notice, is the same structure as the examples we've been looking at. The word is lakacht. There are 2 shvaim at the end of the word. And you might say, well, I have 2 shvaim in a row. The second one should be a shavana, but no, that's not the case. Why? Because rule number 4, a shava at the end of the word is always going to be a shvanach. Example number 2 is the word nerd. Nerd is a word that we have in the Pituma Ketoret. We read that as part of the tefillah. And you'll notice that there's 2 shvaim in a row. And rule number 3 tells us that if you have 2 shvaim in a row, the second one is a shvana. But that rule doesn't apply here. Also, you'll notice the dagesh within the letter dalid. That's rule number 2 would tell you shvana, but that also doesn't apply here. Why? Because rule number 4 overrides. A sheva at the end of the word will always be a sheva nach. It'll always be silent. So let's look at our updated rule bank. The first rule we have is that a sheva at the beginning of the word is a sheva na. The second rule that we have is a sheva under a letter with a dagesh is also a sheva na, and it's pronounced. Rule number 3 is when we have two shevaim in a row, two consecutive shevas. The first one is going to be silent as a sheva nach, and the second one will be sheva na, pronounced. And now rule number 4 is telling us that a sheva at the end of the word will always be sheva nach, even if it's two shevaim and goes against rule number 3, and even if there's a dagesh in that letter and goes against rule number 2. The sheva at the end of the word will always be a sheva nach. In our next video, we are going to learn about rule number 5, twin letters. Let's say you have the same letter twice in a row, and there is a sheva underneath the first letter. How do we read that sheva? As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you could be informed of future videos. And please share this video with anyone who you feel will find it useful. See you next time.